In a sport where perfection is merely the beginning, there was one who seemed destined to redefine an entire era. Calum Von Moger was called the Arnold of the 21st century, for his physique defied all logic and his charisma conquered millions. Three-time Mr. Universe, a rising star with the world at his feet. But when everything seemed perfect, when the cameras wouldn't stop following him, and his name resonated in every gym on the planet, everything collapsed. From devastating injuries to the death of his brother, from addiction to a jump from a window that almost cost him his life. His body defied genetics, but his mind faced demons that no muscle could defeat. Calum Jose Von Moger was born on June 9, 1990, on a small farm in Victoria, Australia. There were no luxuries or privileges, only land, work, and 5 siblings with whom to share everything. His family lived off what they cultivated: fruits, vegetables, some farm animals. Every meal was the result of collective effort. His father taught them from a young age that nothing came for free, that every achievement required sweat and sacrifice. Calum was the typical skinny kid, thin with no notable muscles, just another boy running through the fields of Victoria. But something changed when he turned 14. His older brother had started training in an old abandoned warehouse on the outskirts of town. It was a modest place with rusty weights, battered bars, no air conditioning, and no mirrors. But for Calum, that place became his sanctuary.
My initial goal was to catch up to my older brother in terms of strength,
he would confess years later. And so it began. Day after day, lifting iron under the Australian heat. His body responded in an extraordinary way. In a matter of months, he was no longer the skinny kid from the farm. His bone structure was perfect, broad shoulders, narrow waist, proportions that seemed designed by a Greek sculptor. But Calum had a problem: a ridiculously fast metabolism. While others struggled to stay lean, he struggled to gain weight. He ate tuna, pasta, everything he could to feed that growing body. And it worked. By age 16, he was already bigger than his older brother. By 18, he was the most muscular young man in all of Victoria. In 2010, at just 20 years old, Calum decided to compete in his first local bodybuilding competition. He had no professional trainer, no sponsors. He hadn't even practiced his poses correctly. But when he stepped onto that stage, something magical happened. The judges were paralyzed. They couldn't believe a young man with no experience had that physique. He won his first competition without any dispute. And that was just the beginning of something much bigger. In 2011, at 21, Calum won his first major title, Junior Mr. Universe. The bodybuilding world began to set its eyes on this young Australian with the perfect smile and an even more perfect physique.
From down under Australia, Calum Von Moger.
Comparisons with Arnold Schwarzenegger began to appear everywhere. Same height, 1.88 meters, 6'2". Same structure, monumental shoulders, wasp waist, that famous stomach vacuum of the golden era. Even the shape of his biceps was practically identical to the Austrians. In 2014, he traveled to South Korea to compete in the WFF Amateur Mr. Universe. The competition was fierce, with athletes from all over the world. But when Calum walked out on stage, the crowd went wild. His physique was a living masterpiece. arms measuring almost 50 centimeters, 20 inches, a chest bulged like armor, abs carved like chiseled stones, and those legs that looked like marble columns. He won the title indisputably.
Mr. Universe, Calum Von Moger! Congratulations!
The following year, in 2015, he won Mr. Universe again, this time as a professional. 3 Mr. Universe titles before turning 25. Calum Von Moger had become a living legend, and his name began to resonate beyond the world of bodybuilding. But Calum had a bigger dream than competitions. He wanted to conquer America, live in Los Angeles, become something more than a bodybuilder. In 2015, he packed his bags and moved to California, and he didn't do it alone. Traveling with him was Karina L., a fitness model who had become his girlfriend. Together, they became the most famous couple in fitness. 2 people who can work, play, live, love, and travel together, Karina said in an interview. They were living the American dream. They trained together 3 hours a day, 6 days a week. They ate every 2 hours to maintain those perfect physiques. They recorded videos for YouTube that reached millions of views. Their photos on Instagram went viral in minutes.
So I moved here the end of 2014, and I actually bumped into Karina here. We met here in LA. We met actually a year ago at a WWE tryout in Orlando, and then I went back to actually we met when I was filming Mad Desire 2, which for me, living here in California was always like far-fetched sort of a dream. When I grew up, I saw it on Pumping Iron, the lifestyle, all the greats, training at Gold's Gym, going to Muscle Beach, just living down here, swimming and having fun. So for me, that was like the ultimate dream. I thought, just imagine being able to live here and do what you love. And I've been lucky enough to make it work, with Karina. We live here together now, and it's pretty awesome.
It's a dream life.
Yeah, it really is.
Calum wasn't just muscle and poses. He had a clear philosophy on training. Quality over quantity. While others killed themselves with ridiculous volume, he focused on the mind-muscle connection, on feeling every repetition, on lifting heavy weights with perfect technique. Rome wasn't built in a day, he used to remind himself when motivation wavered. It requires patience, consistency, and time. And the world started to notice.
In 2017, he was invited to participate in Generation Iron 2, the most important documentary of modern bodybuilding, directed by Vlad Yudin. The film catapulted him to international fame. He was no longer just an Australian bodybuilder. He was a global star with over 3 million followers on Instagram. Brands fought to sponsor him. Gyms invited him to give seminars all over the world. Calum Von Moger, at 27 years old, had absolutely everything. Then came the call that would change his life forever. In 2017, the producers of a biopic about the Wider brothers were looking for someone who could play the young Arnold Schwarzenegger. The film would be called Bigger and would tell the story of Joe and Ben Wider, the godfathers of bodybuilding.
Many of you said that one day I should play Arnold in a movie.
Calum wrote on Instagram when the news was confirmed.
That day has come. I will play the role of Schwarzenegger in upcoming Wider movie, Bigger.
The fitness world exploded with excitement. Calum didn't just physically look like Arnold, He had his same presence, his same charisma. The preparation was intense. He had to study Arnold's Austrian accent, his ways of moving, his iconic poses. And most importantly, he had to work directly with the legend. Arnold approached me, Calum would recall later. He wanted to see some of my poses. He gave me advice on posing and various training tips. It was a dream come true. The young man who had grown up admiring Schwarzenegger was now being trained by the man himself to play him in a movie. The movie premiered in 2018, co-starring Tyler Hoechlin and Julianne Hough. Although Calum wasn't the protagonist, his presence was indelible. He had proven he could act, that he had the charisma necessary for the big screen. Hollywood was beginning to open its doors to him. $1 million contracts, opportunities in television, a career in entertainment was just beginning, but destiny had other plans. December 2017. Any given day at a gym in California, Calum was training biceps with his friend Chris Bumstead. The weights were ridiculous as always, nothing out of the ordinary for someone like Calum. But in the middle of a repetition, something went terribly wrong. A sharp snap, like a rope breaking inside his arm. The pain was instant and devastating. His left bicep had literally detached from the bone. The muscle rolled upward, forming a grotesque ball on the upper part of his arm. The cameras captured it all. The scream of pain, the desperation on his face, the deformed muscle like something out of a nightmare. The video went viral in a matter of minutes. Millions of people around the world saw the exact moment Calum Von Moger's perfect body broke. He needed urgent surgery. Doctors had to reattach the bicep tendon, fixing it back to the bone with screws. The recovery would be long, painful, frustrating. Calum lost over 44 pounds of muscle in the first few weeks. His arm, which once measured 50 centimeters, now looked like that of a teenager.
Seeing my body disappear was one of the hardest experiences of my life.
He would confess later in the documentary Unbroken, April 2018, just 4 months after his first injury. Calum decided to do something incredibly stupid. He wanted to film himself rappelling down a cliff in Australia for his social media. It was the type of adventurous content his followers loved, but the rope gave way.
Start walking down. Oh shit, shit, let's go.
Oh, my knee! Alex! Hold up, I've got my knee! My knee's broken, bro! Oh shit! Oh, my knees!
Hey,
oh, fuck!
Hey, hang there for a second.
Hey,
hang there for a second.
Alex! You're gonna have to go. I can't walk.
I'm gonna need to drag you closer away from the edge. If the rope had...
Calum fell several meters. The impact was brutal. Shattered knee, torn quadriceps tendon, dislocated kneecap, and as if the universe were mocking him, his left bicep, the same one that had broken months earlier, tore again in the fall. He was back in the operating room. Another surgery, more screws, more pain. This time the doctors were clear. You will probably never compete professionally again. While Calum was bedridden in a hospital in Australia, his life in Los Angeles began to crumble. His relationship with Karina L. ended. The pressure of the injuries, the distance, the finances, it all became too much. The man who once had the perfect relationship was now alone, broken, and thousands of kilometers from his adopted home. But Generation Iron still believed in him. Vlad Yudin proposed making a full documentary about Calum, about his rise, his fall, and his fight to recover. Calum Von Moger, Unbroken, became the franchise's most personal project. The cameras followed him for months, capturing his most vulnerable moments, his painful training sessions, his tears in solitude.
I've been through a lot in the last year, from injuries to big achievements, lots of ups and downs.
Calum said during filming.
So I'm glad to have it all documented.
The documentary premiered in May 2019. The reviews were positive. People saw the man behind the perfect physique for the first time, the human being with fears, pain, and an unbreakable willpower.
Calum comes across as genuine and very likable, wrote one critic. You can see the sadness in his eyes when he talks about not being able to do what he loves. It really humanizes the character.
For the first time, Calum spoke openly about the pressure of social media, about how millions of followers expected him to always be perfect, always be happy, always show his best version.
I never wanted to be like a slave to social media, to my phone, and just be constantly thinking, what am I going to put out, what content, like constantly thinking, what am I going to feed the audience. And then for a long time I was doing that. I was like, okay, I was under pressure, like, oh, what do I do? It was good because it's how you grow your platforms and stuff like that. It definitely helped. But then I realized that I was like, oh, I'm kind of missing out on reality. I'm missing out on life. I'm like not seeing what's going on in front of me. I'm not doing what I exactly want to do. So you're stuck in this, social media world.
But the tragedies weren't over. In November 2018, while Calum was trying to rebuild his life in California, the flames arrived at his doorstep. The campfire, the deadliest fire in California's history, razed thousands of acres. Calum's house was directly in the danger zone. He had to evacuate immediately. But Calum didn't think about his trophies or his money. He thought about his animals. His dog Rex, whom he called the best dog in the world. He risked his life returning to the burning house to rescue his pets. He came out covered in ash, but with his animals safe. Parts of the interior of his house were completely destroyed. And then came the incident that almost sent him to prison. In January 2022, Calum crashed his car into another vehicle in Melbourne, Australia. What should have been a simple exchange of insurance details turned into a scene of terror. Calum, who was already dealing with PTSD and adjustment disorders, according to his lawyer, exploded. He got out of his car with a knife and slashed the other driver's tires. The video went viral. Calum was arrested and faced criminal charges. His lawyer argued that he had been the victim of multiple carjacking attempts in Los Angeles, which had left him with traumatic after effects. The judge described the incident as terrifying and totally unacceptable, but took his mental health into account. Calum was fined $2,500 and ordered to receive psychological treatment. He had avoided jail, but his image was stained. The injuries didn't just destroy his body, they destroyed his mind. Calum began to fall into a dangerous spiral. Depression consumed him like an invisible cancer. Painkillers became his daily escape, and then came the harder drugs, cannabis, methamphetamine, etc. The list of substances he consumed grew longer every day. His Instagram posts began to change radically. They were no longer photos of epic workouts or impressive physiques. They were erratic messages, dark confessions, cries for help disguised as motivation.
Everyone has a past. We've all gone through hard times. I admit it. I messed up many times.
He wrote days before everything exploded.
My life has completely derailed.
His family was desperate. His father made the hardest decision of his life, to evict him from the family home in Australia.
Calum needed urgent professional help. He couldn't keep living in that self-destructive state. But Calum took it as a final rejection. He felt abandoned by everyone. Then came May 6, 2022, the day Calum Von Moger almost died. High on methamphetamine, in the midst of a severe psychotic crisis, he threw himself out of a second-story window at his home in Geelong.
The glass exploded into 1,000 pieces. His body cut through the air and smashed against the ground with brutal impact. Multiple deep cuts all over his body, severe spinal injury. Paramedics arrived minutes later. They didn't know if he would survive. He was rushed to the hospital. Spinal surgery, induced coma. For days, the bodybuilding world held its breath. Calum Von Moger, the man who once had millions of followers admiring him, was now fighting for his life in a hospital bed.
Scars covered his body like a grotesque map of pain. His back, his arms, his legs, everything was a permanent reminder of that moment of absolute despair. When he finally woke from the coma, he published uncensored photos of his wounds. He wanted the world to see the real consequences of addiction and mental illness.
Calum was charged with possession of multiple substances, cannabis and methamphetamine. He pleaded guilty and was ordered to pay $500 to a court fund. But the money was the least of it. Calum had hit rock bottom in the most horrible way possible. But the worst wound was still to come. In March 2023, less than a year after his suicide attempt, Calum received the news that would destroy him completely. His younger brother, Edward Von Moger, just 28 years old, had disappeared.
My little brother Eddie is missing.
Calum wrote on Instagram in utter despair.
He was last seen 3 days ago, on Thursday, March 2, around 8 a.m. Please, if anyone knows anything, help me find him.
The search was intense and desperate. Family, friends, the police, everyone looking for Eddie in every corner of Victoria. His car was found abandoned at Anglesea Beach, 36 kilometers from his home. The same coastal town where Calum had grown up, where he had started training, where it all began. Days later, Edward's body was found on the coast. He had left a suicide note.
Eddie, who was also struggling with his own internal demons, had decided to end his life. Calum was completely shattered. Not only had he been close to dying himself, but now he had lost his little brother.
I think about my brother every day,
he wrote on the first anniversary of his death. He was no longer the invincible giant on magazine covers. He was a broken man, desperately trying to find reasons to keep breathing. January 2023. Calum slowly reappeared on social media. His voice was different, more mature, more humble, more real.
I know it's been a long time since my last post. I had a bad accident and hurt myself. I took some time off to recover, and I apologize for my absence, but I've had the help I needed.
He showed his scars without shame or filters. He spoke openly about mental health, about addiction, about the brutal price of fame.
I want to leave 2022 behind, as it was a tough year for me,
he confessed. But in his eyes, there was something new, something that had been absent for years, a glimmer of hope.
In 2024, on a podcast with Larry Wheels, Calum dropped a bombshell that no one expected. He spoke of a possible return to competitive bodybuilding, not as revenge, nor for past glory, but as personal redemption. He wanted to prove to the world, but above all to himself, that he was still stronger than his demons. However, the road to recovery is never linear. In January 2025, just a few months ago, extremely worrying videos surfaced of Calum in South Korea. Images of him in nightclubs, dancing shirtless, with evident symptoms of being under the influence of substances.
Rumors of a relapse began to circulate like wildfire on social media. Could Calum really compete in 2025 as he had promised, or was he destined to repeat the same mistakes over and over again? The world watches with equal parts hope and concern. Some believe Calum can return to the top. Others fear his next fall will be the final one. But one thing is certain: Calum Von Moger will never be forgotten.
The story of Calum Von Moger isn't just about muscles and trophies. It's about a skinny kid who grew up on a farm and dreamed of being like his older brother. About a young man who conquered the world with only his determination and superior genetics. About a man who had absolutely everything and lost it in the blink of an eye. It's about someone who hit rock bottom in the darkest way possible and still decided to get up. It's about brothers who fought together and died apart. It's about the price paid when fame comes too fast. It's about the scars that aren't seen, the ones that live in the mind and destroy from the inside. Calum Von Moger remains a legend in bodybuilding. His physique in his prime was indisputably one of the best of his generation. 3 Mr. Universe titles, millions of followers, a movie alongside Arnold Schwarzenegger. But more important than that, his story has become a brutal reminder that mental health matters just as much as physical health, that behind the perfect Instagram bodies, there are human beings with real problems, that fame and success do not make you invincible, that sometimes the most important muscle you need to train is your mind.